social investment shouldn't have been removed from Osinbajo's office, says Sagay. In this interview with Eniola Akinkotu, the chairman Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Issei Sagay, SAN, speaks about trending topics. You've been drumming support for the confirmation of Ibrahim Magu as the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Why are you doing this despite a damning report by the Department of State Services that he is corrupt? He said that report is fake because its contents are untrue. It was done out of dislike or hatred. It is a biased report and it was done with the intention of frustrating his appointment. There is no truth in that report and I don't see why it should be a factor in his appointment. There have been allegations that the EFCC's anti-graft war is one-sided. How? For example, a son-in-law of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is facing charges for attempting to distribute money ahead of the presidential election, while All Progressives Congress leader Bola Tinubu had 2 billion vans with money in his compound on the eve of the same election and is walking free. He said these concerns are misplaced. Atiku's son-in-law was caught committing an illegal financial transaction. There is no question about that because it was a crime. What is a bullion van? Why can't a bullion van come into my compound? There is no offense here. There is nothing wrong with bullion vans coming into a person's compound. Let me also say that these people just hate people out of bias. Tinubu has always been a very wealthy man. He's a man who worked in the petroleum industry before entering politics. And when he had to flee Nigeria during the Abacha years, he was one of the sustaining most of the other freedom fighter on exile. In other words, Tinubu has been a rich man long before he entered government. So governance and his relationship with state matters have nothing to do with his wealth. He acquired wealth long before entering government, and you would expect a person with that kind of money to have invested in various ways and probably increase his. So all this bias and hatred for no reason except that he is a strong man who has his own approach to politics and has a way of organizing himself, of always being on top. There will be a strong attempt to pull him down. Such a person with things like bullion vans and all, I think is totally irrelevant. It is totally irrelevant. Two persons facing EFCC probe, Timiprie Silva and Godswill Akpabio, have been appointed ministers by President Muhammadu Buhari. Silva's case is on an appeal in court, while that of Akpabio is still under probe. Do you think this is right for a government fighting corruption? He said, when I was interviewed on this matter some months ago, I did say that the appointment of Akpabio would have been put on hold pending the outcome of investigations. I have said this before and I don't want to keep repeating it so that Akpabio will not think it is personal. I was only speaking on principle and I still believe that his appointment should have been suspended pending the outcome of investigations. I believe that if a person is being investigated and it is not yet been concluded, he should not be appointed into any position, because if on conclusion of the probe there is evidence of wrongdoing and the person has to be charged to court, it will be an embarrassment. That is my view on that. I don't know everything. Whether they have investigated and found nothing substantial is still unknown to me. Generally, all this talk about one-sided prosecutions is unfair. There are many people who are high up in the APC and have either been tried and sentenced or are undergoing trial or investigation. When I checked the number of people undergoing investigation in the 8th Senate, a large number of them were APC members. You know that 2 former governors who are now in prison are APC members. Also, you know that a former governor who is now in the Senate has a case in court, and the case is almost concluded because of the brilliant work of the EFCC. So quite naturally, there will be more prosecutions of those who were in power for 16 years than the APC, which has only been in power for a few years, because if you had not been in power, how would you have had access to public funds? So it is not true that the war on corruption is exclusively a non-APC affair. But how do you explain the case of Senator Danjuma Goje, who was being tried before a federal high court for allegedly mismanaging billions while he was the governor of Gombe State, and the court had said he had a case to answer? His case was dropped by the Attorney General just shortly after he decided to support the APC's candidate for Senate President. Well, under the law, the Attorney General has the power to intervene in any ongoing case and withdraw the case at any time. I don't know about that case. My committee is an advisory one, and we are not involved directly in all these things, and my knowledge is in some of these things is based on the information I gather. I don't know why Goje's case was dropped, but I know it was on the list of those facing persecution by EFCC. I don't know why his matter was withdrawn, but I think you should ask the EFCC or the Attorney General. You ask the AGF why he decided to withdraw this matter. Earlier in the week, you confirmed the arrest of former AGF Mohammed Adoke in Dubai. Are we expecting extradition soon? He said, definitely the charges against him have been forwarded to Dubai. The authorities of the UAE will then determine that there are serious charges against him and then trigger the implementation of the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, which would see him being brought to Nigeria for trial with or without extradition proceedings. The charges will ensure that he is held pending the appropriate steps being made to ensure his extradition. There are reports that the court had quashed the arrest warrant granted to the EFCC. Why has the federal government not served this fresh court order in Interpol? Fresh order on Interpol. He said, I heard about the court matter, but I don't want to comment on it. This is why we in PACCA are saying that the judiciary should be brought in and properly informed and educated about the war against corruption. This is a time that the judiciary should avoid technicalities and dwell on the substance of the matter. If I were sitting at the court, what I would ask myself is, does this man have a case to answer? If that is the case, whether he has been served or not, and mere technicalities which a judge ought to avoid, because if he escapes with billions of naira belonging to the country, and it is the duty of a judge to see that that person face justice. So I think some of our senior judicial officers need to be educated about the effects of corruption on society and on the need to take action to see that corruption is fought to a standstill. They should not take decisions that will set free those who have deprived this country of development. The corruption is what pushed this country into poverty, unemployment, and other issues. Are you saying it is right for the government to disobey court orders based on national security or an overriding national interest? Well, let us judge it. What is the number one duty of government? Is to provide for the safety and security of the people. The government sees some of the things we don't see. Since I was appointed as chairman of this presidential committee, I have been able to see things which normally I would have criticized because I was not aware of the reason behind some of the actions of government. So there are certain things we know that you don't know, and unless the government has made it a habit to disobey all court orders, I think we should be wary of blind condemnation. If it is in just 1, 2, or 3 cases, then find out why the court order was disobeyed. Usually there are cogent reasons, and the courts themselves have admitted in one of their judgments that national security supersedes individual human rights. But is it the court that determines what is national security or the executive? Yeah, good question. It is the executive that determines what is national security, and then they inform the court so that the court would appreciate the danger which is being averted by keeping such a person temporarily in custody. With the continued detention of Sahara Reporters publisher Sowore and others who have met bail conditions, would you admit that government institutions have taken the law for granted? Would you admit that government institutions have taken the law for granted? He said, no, I wouldn't say so. I have been following the case of Sowore closely. I noticed that in the last statement issued by the DSS, the spokesperson said they were ready to release him, but they would only release him to his shorty. Now, if the shorty goes there and the DSS still denies Sowore his freedom, then everyone would disown the DSS. But why are they shorties shy? I see the point of the DSS not releasing him to protesters who will then carry him shoulder high and start another protest, block highways and cause more confusion. So if the shorties themselves come and the DSS refuse to release him, then they will have questions to answer. But why can't the DSS release him to his lawyer, Mr. Femi Falana, SAN? He said, honestly, my view is that if the DSS say they want to release Sowore to his shorties, why can't they come forward? When we are talking of human rights, both sides must make efforts. One side cannot be protesting and proclaiming things from afar and putting all the blame on others on the other side. The DSS has said at least one shorty should come forward. Why can't Sowore's side accept the olive branch and come forward? So the blame is not on the DSS on this matter. There is something wrong in the shorties refusing to come forward. But Falana said Buhari is planning to have a third term in office. Is it true? He laughed. This is impossible. Quote me, Buhari is a Democrat and will never do such. Some of us even blame him for becoming too much of a super Democrat. He has become too tolerant and too lenient because there are some societies that need some level of authoritarianism to make progress. He will not run for a third term. I don't know how much a thing could be suggested. It will never happen. He believes in the constitution. The vice president's role seems to have been whittled down in this second term, and he was said to have been responsible for some successes in the previous term. Do you see this government doing better now that the vice president's role has been reduced? He said the main responsibility that was taken away from the vice president is the social investment program, which has been taken to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. I was given the impression that some people working on the social investment program have been moved to that ministry. I think we should wait and see. My approach to things as shown in my support for Magu is that when things are going well, I don't like disturbing them. The vice president's office handled the social investment program in an impeccable and successful manner. So I think removing it from his supervision is a risk because it may slow down things. Mrs. Miriam Uwais, who was the advisor, did a magnificent job. They were thorough, professional, and curbed corruption. The school feeding program and other aspects of the program went well. Those involved in corruption were brought to book and monies were recovered. I personally would have wanted things to continue as it was, but those who have the powers have decided that they want to transfer it to a new ministry. I just hope this new ministry does not fall below the standard. So guys, you've heard all from Professor Sagay. In my opinion, he has spoken excellently well, but there are some contradictions somewhere. He talked about, of course, we've talked about what he said concerning Tinubu, bullion van and all of that. And some people have the opinion that this, with all this thing that the man has said, you know, there's a kind of inconsistency there. He talked about Akpabio. If you talk about Akpabio, that Akpabio, you know, they should have hold on, you know, before appointing him. Then do you now blame people who are saying, oh, or blaming the government who said to have been fighting corruption, if he himself has agreed on that note? And concerning Tinubu as well, that area is not clear. Is for the fact that Tinubu has been the richest man in the world or whatever, that doesn't take the fact away from money laundering law, because he said, what is wrong in bringing bullion van into my house? When what do we have always had in bullion van? Is it not money? Do we have only 10,000 naira or 20,000 or 20 million or 10 million naira in a bullion van. We know it is more than that, and that in its own is money laundering. And for the fact that even the man in question, Tinubu, came out and said it is his money, that he can do whatever he likes with it. So what is the professor telling us about money laundering issue? Trying to relate it with the son-in-law of Atiku. So there is this inconsistency, and there's a kind of contradiction, because in 2 billion van, even in 1 billion van, you must have more than enough money that will relate to money laundering, not to talk of having 2 billion vans. So there are inconsistency in that area. And coming again, talking about the vice president, of course, he said those who are in power have decided they want to remove the social investment program from the office of the vice president. That even when the vice president was handling that program, it was excellent and they did a good job and all of that. But he believes that he hopes that it's not going to fall below standard, that they wouldn't have even removed that program away from him, because he did very well. That's in his opinion. But as it is now, those who are in power, those that, like he said, they have decided, those who really have the power to change or turn things around, they have decided that they are going to remove the program from him. So you really, you said a lot of things. So guys, I would like to hear from you from the interview that Professor Sagay granted. Like I said, he spoke excellently well, but there are some things that are not really too adding up, but he really did his job very well. So guys, leave your comments below in the comment section. Thank you very much. Bye.